It's important to work upon attitudes because that's what ultimately prevents us from falling into these recurrent cycles of depression. So, there is the story of a king going through a desert along with the court philosopher. And court philosophers are always busy flattering the king. And suddenly he sees that below a very nearly a shadeless tree, there is a man who is sitting who looks like a mendicant and he is eating something. And the king is curious and he goes there and he says, he's eating something. What are you eating? And he says, I'm eating gruel. So the court philosopher tells him, what a fool you are. If you knew how to please the king, you wouldn't have to eat gruel for the rest of your life. And the mendicant says, I deem you a greater fool, sir. If you knew how to eat gruel, you don't have to please the king for the rest of your life. That's attitude. Another story about attitude. As it is said, when Alexander the Great, whether he was great or the person he's going to meet is great is up to us to judge. It's easy to put the name the Great, but our actions, our inner state, that speaks volumes. So Alexander goes and meets this man who is called Diogenes, and just as he calls himself Alexander the Great, Diogenes calls himself Diogenes the dog. He is a very well-known Greek philosopher, by the way. But he used to live in a small little tub meant for the dogs. So Diogenes the dog, he was very content, and Alexander one day comes, who is this wise man, strange wise man with strange habits? He goes and meets him. Diogenes looks up and says, who are you? He says, don't you know I'm Alexander the Great? So Diogenes introduces himself. I'm Diogenes the dog. Ask me whatever you want, Alexander asks Diogenes. And Diogenes says, can you just move away from my front? You are blocking the sun. That's called living in the present moment and relishing it and enjoying it. He's full of that sunlight. I'm not saying we should start living in a dog's manger. But that's attitude, where we remember that whether in rags or in riches, we still are gods. This is what we see is the great Indian teaching. We see these two examples of great gods, Krishna and Shiva. Krishna, who is playful, full of mirth, wars. At the same time, he is Dwarkadhish, full of opulence, riches. And Shiva, mighty and august, who has abandoned everything, lives solitary, lonely on the nude mountain peaks. And yet, Krishna and Shiva are a single God. So when we discover that there is this, whether I live in rags or riches, there is this God within me, then life becomes beautiful.